All right. Today we have Pavel, a community manager from Metis, and Donatello. I'm not sure exactly his role, but we'll get to that shortly. Yep. So this is the blockchain AMA for Metis. And do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll start with you, Pavel.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Pavel. I'm with Metis. I'm the integration lead for the chain. So I specialize in basically translating the tech from all the technical speak to something more human hearable and understandable. I also work a lot with projects and do partnerships, essentially finding out the needs of the specific protocol that's looking to integrate and following up on in terms of the marketing, technical, or financial need as well. So I'm kind of like the flowing person, finding wherever I'm useful, I'm typically there.
Awesome. So there's always a need for one of those. And Donatello, do you want to give us your role in Hermes?
Yeah, sure. Both in Maya and Hermes, I am a DAO member, and I initially reached out even before we published the contributions. That's like a kind of a way of people interacting with us and giving some contributions, and it's all listed. Even before we had that more programmed way of interacting with DAO members, I reached out and just became a bit part of the team in a way. So like a product manager and a bit of mix of all, like Pavel, because every time something, for example, reaching out to some partners or even being an AMA, I'm probably the one who will be there. So it's just for all trades basically. And also community managing, just in the chats, yes.
And just quickly, can you explain the difference between the Maya DAO and Hermes?
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, Hermes is basically a product of Maya DAO. So Maya is how we created a treasury and how we created a community firstly, and how we explained what was our goal in a longer term with in Metis. But Hermes is actually the first product that Maya brought, and it's the token for the DEX, Hermes DEX. So Maya is the mother token of all this miner ecosystem inside Metis. It owns a part of Hermes, in its treasury. So it's a bit of like a conglomerate, I guess, Maya DAO. It's the way I see it. And Hermes is a product of it, basically.
Awesome. So if Metis is the mother chain, then Maya DAO is the mother DAO.
Yeah, for Hermes at least, yes.
Okay. All right. So let's get into it. Pavel, do you want to tell us about the overview of the chain and why the tech is important?
Absolutely. So in terms of the actual chain and protocol, we originally were an optimistic rollup. So a lot of what was based as a security mechanism was that we originally inherited from Optimism and Optimism's code base. So as an optimistic rollup, we leveraged the security and the decentralization of Ethereum by providing a scalable and cost-effective solution. This was great for the start, just to show as a proof concept everything that was being built, everything that worked, the team can work together, and we demonstrated the efficiencies. But there was still that aspect of, all right, you decrease the cost, but in terms of other chains, they also have a decreased cost, and there was a big barrier in terms of integrating a lot of the GameFi projects, NFT projects, simply because that's BSC, Polygon, Phantom and other chains out there had a lower transaction cost. So we focused more so on reducing the cost to make it more accessible for applications to come in. And with that, we have drastically reduced the transaction cost from a few dollars to now a few cents per transaction. So now we're currently the lowest costing layer 2 scaling solution that's currently on the market. So that's one of the reasons why the tech is important. Is we're still a layer 2 scaling solution, but we've greatly reduced the cost of doing transactions, swaps, or any type of interactions with the blockchain. So that's I guess one of the reasons why the tech is important, specifically because of this cost reduction.
And just quickly, I feel like Metis hasn't been around all that long. I think in my sort of coming up to 6 to 9 months sort of area, it came up in that time. Is that correct?
It was about, we launched in November, mid-November is when our launch was. We introduced a decentralized autonomous company infrastructure and used that as a way to bootstrap the ecosystem with a essentially a what was it, a builder mining generative event, or sorry, staking, DAC staking events, which bootstrapped the network and caused a lot of projects to come on board. In terms of the actual life of the chain, we're live since mid-November.
It makes me feel old that a chain has come up in my time, which isn't even that long. So, but it's crypto, you know what I mean?
Everything happens very fast. Yeah.
All right. So, what is the chain known for, and how does it differ from the other chains? You've talked about how it was similar to Optimism. Can you go further into how it differs from the other optimistic rollups and other L2s?
Absolutely. So, since our recent change within the consensus mechanism, a lot of what we are is we have implemented a structure that still utilizes the portion of the rollups that relate to the security mechanisms. So we do store some of the data off chain in terms of the transaction cost. Now, this is in order to reduce the transaction fee, but in this case, we still leverage the same security mechanisms in terms of a fraud proofing mechanisms as well as on-chain data in relation to the security. So basically what this means is that the mechanisms that we put into place allow for the verification of the data that's present on chain. We still have the, in terms of withdrawal delay, we still have that withdrawal delay that's present as an optimistic rollup. We still have the fraud proofing mechanisms that are present within an optimistic rollup. It's that some of the transaction data is off chain, and that basically greatly reduces the transaction cost, but still maintaining the security mechanisms that are present within an optimistic rollup. So in this case, the fallback mechanisms allows you to make sure that the sequencer that's posting the transaction batches are responsible, and that the data that they are posting on the layer 1 chain, to make sure that everything is accounted for as well. So that's one of the main differences. How we differ is that the transaction data that we deploy is not all on-chain, but in this case, the security mechanisms are still present as an optimistic rollup.
Great. And you did touch on some parts of performance in there. Wonder if you could elaborate on the performance of the chain. If there are any sort of RPC or congestion issues, we've had similar on some of the chains we are already on, and what sort of to expect transaction cost-wise. I did know in the last sort of month or so that the price of transactions has come down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And in terms of the RPC, in terms of congestion, We are currently running our own infrastructure for RPC. We have it more so load balanced by our own peer network, which basically shares in the load balancing of the RPC. So in case that one endpoint fails, another one will take over and basically be the one that's processing those transactions. The same thing in the future, we'll have multiple sequencers that will basically enable the liveliness of the chain. Yeah, because the sequencers are the ones that actually post the transaction data to layer one, so we'll have that as more of a decentralized aspect. In terms of the actual performance in relation to the RPC, we haven't had any type of downtime in relation to RPC. Typically the request, even though the transaction cost has been very minimal, we haven't had any type of DDoS attacks or any type of downtime in relation to the amount of requests that were put onto the RPC. We've done a pretty good job in terms of load balancing this. Of course, we're still looking at external node providers such as Anchor, Pocket, Infura, Alchemy, Blockdaemon. So we're looking at other external RPC providers as well. We just want terms that relate to the sustainability of the network and not having to basically commit to any type of lifelong maintenance or service agreements in terms of this, and so that we have the most effective business arrangement. So we are looking to make it so that the RPC is more decentralized in terms of the other ways to do it. Of course, you can also run your own node and your own infrastructure in order to make those transactions and any type of RPC calls. The transaction cost, you can actually view it on L2fees.info. I think it's about 2 cents per transaction and around 14 cents per swap. So this relates to a cost reduction all across the board, basically. So yeah, and in terms of the actual performance, that's basically the metrics that I know of currently.
Awesome. And what are the bridging options currently available? I know when we sort of launched, a lot of Twitter searching came up with how do I get to Metis? How do I get there from BSC? Things like that. As a bridging protocol, what sort of accessibility already exists?
Absolutely. In terms of the current bridges that we do have, we have our own official bridge, which is bridge.metis.io. This is used for basically as how I would relate. It would be like the central bank, where you would use this if you have like a large sum that you need to transfer into or out of the network. So it's very secure, but it also comes at a cost in terms of the transaction and transaction price due to the security mechanisms present. We do have alternative bridges that's like Poly Network, Relay Chain, Seller, Boring DAO, and Synapse. I think we also have multi-chain, because they renamed themselves from AnySwap. And there might be some other bridges as well that have their own like individual DApp bridges. But in this case, we do have multiple ways of bridging in and out of the network, and especially with stable coins and other alternative means as well.
Sweet. And what would make us what would make our team or voters want to get over to Metis sooner rather than later?
Mm-hmm. In terms of the actual support that the chain would provide, so we do have our own type of decentralized governance system. So we've recently introduced the community ecosystem governance, which has the community verified projects branch in part of it. In this program, you get to demonstrate value towards the Metis community. So essentially, it would be a place where you can submit a proposal and then have an area where you get to demonstrate your value towards the Metis ecosystem. With this, you get free marketing in basically promotions from the main Metis Twitter in terms of projects that are participating within the governance platform. So our Twitter currently has about 130,000 Twitter followers, as well as we're building up more so of just the announcement structure. So we have a YouTube channel as well that's present. We have a Telegram that has about 36,000 Telegram users. In terms of actually going through and participating within the ecosystem, you also get to participate within a live stream. So going through this process, you'd be heavily marketed as a part of the ecosystem. So basically, you wouldn't need to do a lot of the bootstrapping yourself or a lot of the community engagement yourself. You would just go through the program and get known by the community as going through the program. In terms of the actual funding aspects, we do have our builder mining program. We are updating it in terms of the actual amounts that you would receive. Currently, previously protocols that we're deploying on Metis, they were receiving 30% of the transaction fees as rewards for any type of contract interactions that you would receive as part of the Metis ecosystem. You would get that as rewards for your in Metis as a part of the program. We are changing it up because the fee reduction basically impacted it. So now you need to get so much more transactions in order to get the same amount of returns. We do want to make sure that it's fair for projects that are going in and spending time and effort deploying onto the ecosystem. So not only marketing efforts, but there are options for the builder mining rewards as well. And then in terms of the additional funding opportunities, we do have a we do have an ecosystem development program, which has about $100 million from our own VCs. So this is where you're coming in and you're building within the Metis community. You can apply to the ecosystem governance program. Oh, sorry, not the ecosystem governance. The actual program for the ecosystem development, and you go through it. Although this is not a grants program, these are investors looking to essentially I would say make a deal in terms of token allocation and whatnot. But if you need additional funding opportunities for development or expansion costs within the Metis ecosystem, this is definitely a way that you can get it.
It sounds like a bit of a Metis Shark Tank situation.
Exactly. Yeah, we guide each project through and anyone that wants to apply for additional funding, we would guide them. We would basically coach them to speak with the investors so that you hit on points that they want to know more of, and we want to ensure basically any project that goes through this program would be successful with it. So we would make sure to have the guidelines for pitch deck, a white paper, everything else in relation to that. So we take a more involved approach with projects that are looking to build. Of course, this does leverage a lot of time, effort, and energy by us as part of the Metis team.
So I was going through the Medium for Hermes the other day, and it seems like they're really big on trying to meld the story with what they're trying to do. It was pretty cool.
Yes, the lore. Yeah, that's actually one of the way that we as a community, and there's another member in the DAO, Akita, that is quite committed to the lore, or at least that interaction between what's actually happening and kind of translating it into things in the lore of Maya and the Mount Cailin, all the Mount Cailin things, and being the mother of Hermes. And yeah, that's the lore is kind of fun.
All right. Yeah, so I read something about the polis. What is the polis? I'm not very familiar with Greek things, so what is the polis?
The polis is the city, so it's where we meet. It's our Discord, basically. Every time we say join us at the Polis, it's just join us there. We're all there hanging.
I joked the other week that Discord is the real metaverse.
It actually is. Every time there's some cringy metaversey thing just launches, like, I don't know, with actual like avatars and stuff. I just think, bro, just stay on Discord. It's amazing. It's already the metaverse. You just don't have a body, okay? But abstract from that, and it's perfect.
Sort of for your sort of history with crypto, why did you decide to join a Metis protocol over other ones you may have seen in the past?
Well, I think I've never been this early in an ecosystem. So Metis launched in November. The main net was in November, and I think that it was in January that I started, like, actually knowing about Metis and finding out, oh, this was launched like 2 months ago. I can't be any earlier in anything. But before I was in Phantom and Avax, just also interacting with other protocols, and just, I don't know, just hanging, just LPing a bit and being in Twitter. So basically, I wasn't even a DAO member in anything. So it seemed super approachable compared to a lot of projects that I was just bought the token and staked it, or just LP then sold my rewards. It was less. It looked way more approachable, and I choose to have a less passive interaction with it. So yeah, it was kind of by accident, in a way.
I guess the sort of lead in from that is the community was very inviting. What are the other great things about?
Yeah.
What are the other great things about the community?
Well, the great things, Pavel spoke about a lot about them. The improved cost effectiveness in the fees brings a lot of people like me, basically. Like under 6 figures net worth people that don't want to spend a lot in fees, but that just by the amount of time that's spent in crypto can see the value in hovering as much close as possible to ETH in a security sense. So this was like the best new thing. It was similar to using an inexpensive L1, but being a Ethereum L2 gave me like a sense of being an Ethereum junior place, And I didn't went to Optimism and Arbitrum, so Metis kind of might be the most inviting of them all. Otherwise, I might have found them before. I don't know.
Did you have anything to add to that, Pavel?
Yeah, in terms of the actual in terms of the actual protocol, we personally want to support the ecosystem, the projects, to make sure that everyone wants to contribute value has the opportunity to do so. And before we understood some of the processes to, for example, we saw inefficiencies right from the start in terms of our partnerships, because I was directly involved in a lot of those discussions. So we saw those inefficiencies and we fixed them by decentralizing a lot of the partnership branch to the community ecosystem governance. So we're more and more tailored to decentralizing the protocol up to the point where we'll have no influence in terms of our direct support for the protocol. So we will support projects in terms of guidance and a lot of the connections as well, because a lot of the projects that have come to Metis have been, or at least the most active ones, have wanted to have connections with other projects and protocols. And so having that mediator, being that mediator between one project and the other, has and showing that collaboration between differing protocols will lead to long-term sustainable growth. We want to benefit that as a result. So we are currently running a large portion of the infrastructure ourselves. We are currently, doing a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of the protocol, but we're taking steps in order to make it more decentralized and making it more accessible. We're right now focusing on our educational content as well. So trying to bring new users to the chain and what our values are and the value proposition that we offer over other layer 2 ecosystems and other chains as well. So we wanted to basically make it more accessible, make it more usable, make it more friendly, and establish a warm, welcoming community of people that want to produce value for the ecosystem. And more so to that, we don't want to be known for just being a layer 2. We don't want to be known for just being another chain. We want to be more so of the platform for different ecosystems. And so we want to focus more into the governance aspects. We want to be more so of having the ability to, for example, deploy on other chains as well, and then leverage usable tooling to be able to make it easier for the average person to come on board into a Web3 ecosystem and be able to use the amount of DeFi products that already exist. So we want to be more accessible towards Web 2 users, Web 2 developers, and Web 2 businesses as well. So that's a lot of what we're focusing on. Right now, we're establishing our place within the Web 3 ecosystem, but long-term goals and visions is that we want to be the leader for bringing on board Web 2, the Web 2 ecosystem as well.
That sounds great. I might just open up the floor to any questions while I continue the conversation, and I'll ask them in due course. It sounds good that you're putting in the heavy lifting now. In time, this will pay dividends as the community develops.
Exactly. And so that's our long-term strategy, and this is we plan on being around for a while, at least for the builder mining rewards. Only, I would think, around half of the tokens are actually produced and present within the ecosystem. The other half are going to be unlocked throughout a 10-year period and distributed across builders that are looking to continue to expand and grow the ecosystem. So that's our long-term goals and value proposition, is that having that ability to collect rewards right now for building, and then expanding the chain for other future projects looking to build as well, and then be incentivized through not just community and social incentives, but also those monetary ones as well. So that's our goal, is to incentivize projects throughout the whole aspect, through marketing, through technical, as well as the financial aspects.
Awesome. I don't think there's any questions coming in, so I might just finish with one last question in regards to what you've just said. In terms of Metis appearing on other chains and being like the onboarding process, how does that? How do you envision that to work?
Absolutely, that's a very good question. And in terms of the process, we're currently working on a product, and you mentioned Polis. Polis is one of the things that we're working on. It's more of like blockchain middleware. So people that are looking to come on board into a Web3 ecosystem, they have the option to use MetaMask or Brave Wallet or Wallet Connect, but they also have the option to use username and password. Of course, the Web 2 user that comes on board will have a harder onboarding time by downloading an external wallet, managing their own private keys, and having that. So we want to give more so of the user choice to be able to do that themselves. In addition, sharing smart contracts are also something that is very, I would say, very important within the ecosystem. Smart contracts are meant to be composable, meant to be extendable, meant to be shared. But currently, the infrastructure in order to do that is with Open Zeppelin contracts. So the only contracts that are actually used are ones that are created by consensus by Open Zeppelin, are these big, reputable, audited contracts. But in fact, there are other ways in order to share different contracts across the entire ecosystem. And because everyone's using safe math, everyone's using different forms of different contracts as well. So we're providing a single interface where you can essentially pick and choose which contracts that you want, and then use that as a template, as a guidelines for extending your application. And so a lot of forks are also based off of contracts that are already created as well. So we want to make it so that everything can be managed within a single interface. With that, we're focusing more on the usability aspects, and within that is Polis. Polis is our main focus right now. Of course, right now I wouldn't say that it would be the tool right now, but we're currently working on more so of that usability. We're going to break it down into 3 different products: one tailored for users, one tailored for developers, one tailored for businesses, and we're establishing more so governance related tooling for having that essentially greater chain expansion. So as a part of that, we're also working on a reputation system and the ability to future be able to share your for example NFT profile on different chains and basically state that I worked for this DAO, I worked for this other DAO, I worked for this other organization, and then you can keep track of all of your interactions within all of the different DAOs that you've worked with, like a decentralized LinkedIn profile. And so with that, you get to keep your identity. You don't have to expose your identity. You don't have to dox yourself in order to prove that you're a reliable employee. All you do is you show that you have an NFT badge, that you have all the interactions of all of the DAOs that you've currently worked with, and then right there you share your experience, and then right there people can trust you even easier, and you don't have to go through the onboarding time where people are currently in the process of saying, are you legit? Will you try to do anything funky if we give you access to whatever this, and then this basically makes it so that it decreases the time for onboarding new members of a DAO, because you can instantly see that this person is legit, they've worked for different organizations that are reputable, and this person's address is associated with these types of DAOs they worked with. So we're developing a reputation system in order to make it much easier for onboarding new members to a DAO as well. So that's more of the long-term vision and goal, is to not just be located on a single chain, but instead be multi-chain and have that access within different types of ecosystems as well.
I like that a lot. I guess for us being, the community bridge that wants to be joining all these networks up together, it's almost having like a similar path. All right. If one last question, if someone was to ask what Metis was about in terms of protocols, whether it be NFTs, DeFi, GameFi, which one would you lump it in with?
Mm-hmm. Currently, I would say it's DeFi. But eventually we're looking at transitioning more so towards the DAO and DAO-like ecosystems. So more of not necessarily a governance platform, but we're looking more so into automation tooling, into tooling to make it easier, like knowledge-based tracking, into making it easier to create and onboard different types of I would say organizations or organizational models. So maybe not specifically related to just governance, but also related to how Web2 businesses can easily create a decentralized business and have a decentralized task board and manage their own organization within this decentralized task board. So this is something that we're looking on future expansion to. Of course, we're always looking at NFT applications. We're always looking at DeFi. We're always looking at GameFi. But the main purpose of the cost reduction is to make it easier to do on-chain governance. And with that, leverage the transparency, the immutability, and the verifiability of the blockchain that you're currently using in order to have that, to make it more transparent, the different types of operations that are present, and so to make it also cost effective in order to do those operations. So that's what we want to be known for, is more so related to the governance aspect, to more so creating these organizations for people to eventually leverage the decentralized economy.
Awesome. So in summary, it sounds like trying to add some real world utility to the blockchain, which is amazing.
Exactly.
All right. So thank you very much for joining us, Donatello and Pavel. That rounds us out for the Metis Blockchain AMA. If anyone has any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat and I can forward them on and bring back some answers. Otherwise, we look forward to voting and hopefully getting on your chain soon.
Yeah, thanks. It was a super interesting experience.
Thanks a lot for having me and us.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. You as well.
You as well. Bye.